Hello, I'm Vincent Sansbury. Welcome to another enlightening episode of The Truth of the Times. Episode 4, The Sun versus the Snake. In our previous episode, we introduced the main themes of Zeitgeist, demonstrated the similarities to a film from 1991 called Naked Truth, and showed step by step how to properly trace the information from the film back to a primary source. In this episode, we begin with the very first statement made in the film and divulge the sources presented and historical evidence both for and against these statements. Something the filmmaker, Peter Joseph, should have done long before presenting this film, which thousands mistakenly believe is 100% true and backed up by historical evidence. So, let's begin with the very first statement.
This is the sun.
Though not an entirely educational statement for the target audience, this is completely factual.
As far back as 10,000 BC, history is abundant with carvings and writings reflecting people's respect and adoration for this object. And it is simple to understand why, as every morning the sun would rise, bringing vision, warmth, and security, saving man from the cold, blind, predator-filled darkness of night. Without it, the cultures understood, the crops would not grow, and life on the planet would not survive. These realities made the sun the most adored object of all time.
Is the sun really the most adored object of all time? It's a statement many might just take for granted as true, but given the central importance of this theme to the foundation of the film, I believe it warrants exploration. So let's explore the logic of this topic. To assume this is true, one must have a reasonable belief that of all the people who ever lived, most of them worshipped or at least venerated the sun over all other objects, including food, trees, stone idols, the earth, and of course, money. These are among just a few of the other objects of worship that go uncounted by the film.
They decided to pray literally at the golden bull in front of Wall Street. Look at this picture. Has anyone read the Bible? You know, praying to a golden cat? A golden cat?
Without it, the cultures understood, the crops would not grow, and life on the planet would not survive.
Previous to our agricultural ancestors, the first humans were hunter-gatherers. Without crops to grow, they did not depend on the sun so much as animals. There is archaeological evidence to support the claim that animal worship or animal cults existed at least 70,000 years ago. This site, located in Sodilo, Botswana, contains a 70,000-year-old sculpture of a stone python. Animal worship, or worship of animal spirits, can be found on all 6 inhabited continents. People needed animals for food, clothing, and domesticated helpers.
As every morning the sun would rise, bringing vision, warmth, and security, saving man from the cold, blind, predator-filled darkness of night.
The sun doesn't protect anyone from wolves, bears, lions, etc., as the film claims. In fact, it probably just made it easier for predators to find early humans. Sun worship appeared about the same time that the Western world became dependent on agriculture, about 10,000 BC. The historical record shows no evidence of sun worship until 2700 BC, and it originated in Egypt and Mesopotamia, evolving out of animal worship and existing alongside it. In the Americas, sun worship among natives was very obscure until the rise of the Inca Empire in the 14th century, which only lasted about 100 years. Before 8000 BC, 1 billion people had lived and died without worshipping the sun for the most part, so far as we can tell. Between that time and 1 AD, the population exploded from just a parsley few to an estimated 300 million. About 46 billion people came and went in that time. Even if we assumed half of them worshipped the sun, and noting that sun worship went out of style shortly after the time of Muhammad, that means that only 23 billion of 106 billion people who have ever lived have adored the sun above all other objects, and that is a generous estimate. In order for this claim to be absolutely true, it would mean that all human beings who ever lived and died between 50,000 BC and 800 AD worship the sun. The reason we take this for granted? No serious study, to my knowledge at least, has ever been conducted to confirm or deny this. If someone else is up to the task, I challenge you to prove me wrong. But I couldn't put enough evidence together to back up this one. Sorry, Pete. So where did this statement come from? Peter Joseph actually has numerous citations in the transcript section on zeitgeistmovie.com. This statement alludes to The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall, 1928, copyright not renewed. Mr. Hall does not outright even say it was the most adored object of all time. Merely one of them. Immediately, one can see how a permutation of just one word cited incorrectly has a colossal effect. Mr. Hall cites another author, Albert Pike, as his source from a book called Morals and Dogma. However, this is not the full title of the book. The full title of the book is actually Morals and Dogma of the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, published 1874. Please, do not jump to the conclusion that I am saying this is some sort of Masonic conspiracy. I am just stating a fact, one which can be easily verified with a Google book search or visiting any of the dozens of libraries in the United States that have this book. Sure enough, on page 594, one can find this exact quote. However, nowhere in the book will one find the phrase, "the sun, the most adored object of all time," or anything like it. However, Albert Pike makes numerous mention of the sun throughout the whole book, claiming it represented life to ancient peoples. But again, we find a self-educated author who does not use any academic citation, instead relying on occasional unconfirmed quotations, who failed to add a bibliography. In short, stating the sun was the most adored object of all time was something that Peter Joseph completely made up, and furthermore, has no bearing in actual archaeological evidence or scholarly sources. Maybe Peter Joseph does not know what academic citation really is, or how important it is when one is doing historical research. But I know that people who have been to college still don't bat an eye at this statement that all ancient people worship the sun. Couldn't tell you why.
Likewise, they were also very aware of the stars.
This statement is actually very true. Humans would have used constellations for at least 17,000 years, as demonstrated by these cave paintings in Lascaux, France, which once again is linked back to mostly animals. Intriguingly, the paintings in the cave are best illuminated on the winter solstice during the setting sun. However, no signs of offerings or other evidence of religion seem to be present at this site. Still, it's clear that ancient people were very aware of the movement of the stars. This is the image at the top of Peter Joseph's citation list. And the image in the ivory matches up with the constellation Orion's position 30,000 years ago, which matches the carbon dating on the object, so that pushes the date back even further. So maybe stars should be on that list of the most adored objects of all time. Thank you for watching The Truth of the Times. We hope this gives you a better understanding of how one cannot always take everything at face value. Feel free to go back and follow the links provided to learn more about the subjects presented here. Join us again in our next episode, where we will discuss who cataloged the constellations and more. We also appreciate feedback and corrections you may have. I'm Vinford Sansbury, and remember, seek out the truth and ye shall find it.